Okay, folks, here we are in the back hallway of the CPA. As you're headed towards the scene shop, facing the wrong way, we're going to turn around here. This is what you're going to see when you arrive at the scene shop. There's the door to the scene shop, CPA 142. Coming on down here, we got the loading dock. You can see awesome dumpsters outside there. You can come in that door if you want to. When you get here, you're going to come and find this little table that's sitting outside the door here. It's going to have some drawings on it. You're going to pick up a drawing and look that drawing over while you're waiting in line to come inside so you have some idea of what your numbers are and what the thing looks like. I'm gonna go ahead and take one. We're gonna move into the shop. Okay. When you come in the shop, nice big room. Got all the scene shoppy things all over the place. Nice big room, work tables and saws and whatnot. You're gonna come right here to the PPE station. Pardon my terrible camera work. While you, at the PPE station, you're gonna get safety glasses out of the cabinet. We might have these on a table, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. Safety glasses and hearing protection. These are my hearing protection. I'll put them on my head. You're also gonna get a pencil and a tape measure. Okay. Then you're gonna take your PPE, your tape measure, your pencil, and your drawing. You're gonna come over here to the radial arm saw, where we're gonna make the top for your bench. Notice we got some boards here for you. Take a nice big board. You're gonna whack a piece off of it, because you've looked at the drawing, you know how long it needs to be, right? You're gonna take your pencil and your tape measure. You can put the tape measure on the back side of the board, as far away from you as you can, right at the edge, and you're gonna make a mark where you need to make the cut to get your board the right length, okay? Then you're gonna slide the board over against the fence. This is a fence here, the whole where you put your material. And you're gonna pull the saw out till the blade is just touching the board. You're not gonna turn it on yet. And you're gonna just lift it up a little bit, do whatever you gotta do. Get it slid back and forth until the saw blade is on the waist side of your mark. If you make the saw blade on that side of the mark, it makes the board too short. Wiggle it around until you get that this side of the blade, the side of the blade away from you, right on your mark. Push it back away from you. Now you're ready to make the cut. One of the things you need to know about this saw is it's on a carriage. This moves back and forth. And you have to pull it through the material. The blade is spinning away from you, like this. So it's like a tire on a car. It wants to go in that direction. It wants to pull itself through the material. So when you're pulling it, you're gonna grab this big handle right here, and you're gonna gently pull it towards you, while at the same time being ready to resist its movement if it starts to come too fast. And so you wanna pull it through the material at a nice steady speed. Okay, I'm gonna demonstrate. Hearing protection on. Saw pushed as far away from the board as I can push it. Put my right hand down on which one is this? This is my left hand. Put my left hand down on the board and push it down and down onto the table and back into the saw. So I'm kind of pushing down at a 45-degree angle. I'm gonna reach up here, I'm gonna turn it on. Grab the handle. Pull it slowly through. Pull it all the way through. Make sure that we cut it all the way through. Push it back and turn it off. Do not let go of it until after you've turned it off. Okay, and now look at this. You've made your first piece. At this point, you're gonna leave this to the next person and move on to the next station, okay? So now we're taking our drawing, our pencil, our top, and our tape measure. We're gonna move over to the next station. This is the chop saw. Some people call it a power miter saw. There's a variety of different things to call it. This is what we need. So now we're gonna cut the two sides of our board. I failed to set up the saw before I came over here. I'm gonna set the saw at 10 degrees because that's the angle that's on our drawing. we'll already have some boards here cut for you that are the right width. So this board is 3.5 inches wide, just like it says on your drawing. I'm gonna push it over the way. Notice it's got this little knot in the end of it. Well, I don't like that little knot because it hurts my feelings. So I'm gonna cut that knot off when I cut the first angle on my board, okay? This one's different. Has the same kind of blade. Big, scary, toothy blade that's spinning away from you. But this one, it slides. Oops. This one slides, pulls out towards you, moves like that. You don't want to move it. What you want to do is just push it straight down through the board. And it has a trigger here. You squeeze this handle to start the saw, okay? Squeeze the saw. The other thing I didn't mention over there, but I'm going to mention here, for both saw, for any saw that you're ever using, when you start the saw, when you pull the trigger, when you turn the switch on, wait for it to come up to speed, so it's at full speed before you start putting it into the material. So again, I'm holding the board down with my right hand. I'm pushing down and into the fence, and then I'm going to start the saw. And slowly push it through the material. Look, I made a little board. So now I've made one cut. Now I need to measure how long it needs to be. And I'm going to reference my drawing. Okay, and I'm going to make a mark right on the edge, right where I need to cut it. Okay, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little, just a reference mark to make sure I remember which way to cut it. Because if I cut it, if I put it over there, it's going to cut it the wrong way, right? So now I'm going to flip it over so I can be cutting it the right way. Oh, gee, now I can't find the mark. So what I should have done is marked it before I turned it over. So I'm going to make a new mark on this side of the board. 10, and I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to find that on drawing. And again, I'm going to make a little mark to remind me which direction I'm cutting it. So now I've done that. I'm going to slide it over here. I'm going to move it around. And this saw is really cool. It's got a light in there so you can see that shadow. That shadow is right where the blade's going to cut. So I'm just going to line it up on that mark and make a second cut. Ta-da! I've made my first board. Okay, now, I don't care what the tape measure has to say. This is where a lot of people are going to disagree with me, but we're going to do it this way. So what you're going to do is pull the board through, because you need two boards, right? Look, if I try to make that cut, that would be wrong. But if I flip the board over, it would be like that, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my finger right here. I'm going to line these two boards up really carefully with my finger. I'll pull the saw down without starting it. Pull the saw down, and I'm going to slowly slide the board over so it's just touching the saw blade. Okay? And wiggle it around until it's just right. See how the saw blade is just skinning past there? And then I'm going to hold these two boards together, down and away, pushing down and away. I'm going to hold them together, and I'm going to cut it again. Now, once I've done that, as you can see, I've got two boards that are exactly the same length. If I was sending these to the space station and they had to fit in exactly the right space, I would measure them and make sure they were exactly correct. But being I'm building a bench, and I need two sides that are exactly the same size, I don't really care if they're exactly the right measurement. I just care that they are exactly the same size. So that's why I use that technique to cut my two pieces. So now I've got my two sides and my top, right? So now we're going to move over to the next station, the assembly station, which I failed to set up. So I'm going to pause the video here for a second and get my stuff set up, and we'll be right back. Okay, folks, we're going to give this a go. I don't know if I've got this set up or not, but worst case scenario, I have to stop and start over. Okay, so you got all your pieces cut. You've got two sides you just cut. You got your top that you cut. You got these two ends that I've already made for you. So there's going to be a stack of them here in the shop. Whenever you get here, you'll find two of these. Got some glue. Got a drill to drill some pilot holes with. Got a combination square to make some marks with. Got a scrap of wood to drill holes in. Got a drill to put some screws in with. And we got a pile of screws. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna measure and mark and drill all of our holes. We're gonna start with the top because I think it's the easiest to explain. So you're gonna reference your drawing to find out what your measurements are. And I'm gonna set my combination square. Notice that it has a little thumb screw right here. So I can loosen and tighten. When I loosen this up, I can slide this back and forth. When I tighten it down, it's locked in place, it doesn't go anywhere. So I'm gonna set this at my first distance, which is the distance that the screws are away from the edge of the board. And now I'm just gonna drag a line. It doesn't have to be a heavy line, just a light line, right down the side there. Notice it kind of moves around a little bit, so you gotta kind of hold it with one hand, mark it with the other hand. And then I'm gonna do the same thing over on the other side. Notice, gotta hold it, just holding it down with my pinky finger. And then I'm gonna if I hold my ends up, notice that they're gonna be like this. Whoops, they're not gonna be like that. They're gonna be like this. So when they're built into the bench, they're gonna sit like that. So this is the outside. You might wanna just draw a little faint O there, so I know which one's the outside. That's the one I wanna put my marks on. So then I'm gonna drag a little short line down the side of each one of those. Referencing the drawing. The drawing shows you where to do all this. Find my O, draw a little line there. That's what I'm holding it down with my pinky finger. Drawing a little light line. These don't have to be super heavy lines. They just have to be enough that you can see them. Okay? And then I'm gonna look at my drawing again, and I'm going to, so I've drawn all those lines. I'm gonna go back to the top, and I'm gonna look at this number. It doesn't really matter what order you do this in, just as long as you do it in an order. And I'm gonna choose to do this one next. Again, using it's a ruler, it's got inch marks on it. I'm going to go here, I'm gonna make a mark on the end to show me where the screw holes go there, and another one to go here. Okay, and then I'm gonna look up another number. Notice I'm not saying these numbers out loud, so you actually have to look at the drawing. Now I'm gonna make a little cross hash right here. I don't even have to slide it. I can just put a little mark there. Look, I spun it around once too many times. Okay, I got those 4 holes marked. Now I'm gonna set my marker again. This one has centimeter marks on one side of the ruler, so I get confused. Make these marks. Okay, you could use a tape measure to do this, but I think using this tool is a lot faster. So now I've got my 8 screw holes marked in my top. I still need to mark the ones in my legs, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that first to get all the marking out of the way. I'm gonna reset my combination square to the next measurement. Make a little mark there, make a little mark here, make a little mark there, make a little mark here. I'll reset my combination square to the next measurement. And again, it doesn't really matter what order you do all these marks in, as long as you wind up with marks in all the places you need marks. You should have 4 holes in each one of your legs and 8 holes in the top, okay? Set that out of the way. Each station that you show, there should be a scrap of wood for you to use to drill your pilot holes into, so you don't drill 1,000 holes in my table, because the tables aren't priceless, but we just do not drill 1,000 holes in them. So then I'm pick up my drill. It's gonna already have an 1/8 inch drill bit in it. It's gonna be in 2nd gear, and when you pull the trigger, it should go forward. There's a forward and reverse switch here. Make sure that it has an arrow on it pointing forward. So this button's pushed that way for it to turn right. Put the drill bit on your mark, pull the trigger, push it through. Ta-da, drill the hole. And we're gonna do that on all 8 of those locations. Just gonna pick it up there, pull the trigger, let the drill bit fall through the material. The drill bit should be sharp enough that it will cut the hole without you having to push on it too hard. And then once it's gone all the way through, you can feel it when it pops out the other side of the board. Keep the drill bit spinning and pull the drill bit back out, okay? I don't know if you can see it or not, but sometimes you put the drill bit down like that and it'll wander around a little bit. As long as it doesn't wander around a lot, you'll be fine. And after you drilled about 1,000 holes, you'll figure out how to overcome that. The big thing is to keep the drill bit spinning until you've pulled it up out of the material. Okay, so we drilled those 8 holes. Now we're going to drill these 8 holes. And the purpose of these pilot holes is just to keep us from splitting the wood whenever we put the screws in. I don't know if you see how I kind of went around to get that back to where the mark was. It wandered a little bit. If you pull the trigger and it takes off, make sure you get it straight up and down before you push it through the board. Don't push it through at an angle and make a wonky, angly hole. Okay. Okay, we set that drill bit aside because we've accomplished drilling all 8 of our holes. We're going to kind of turn the table off, just get the sawdust off on the floor so it's out of our way. Set our scrap of wood to the side. And then the first step you're going to do is you're going to attach the legs to the sides. You're going to make this connection right here. And it's kind of tricky, okay? We're going to use our drill and our screw and screws here. I'm going to demonstrate. No, I'm not. I'm not going to demonstrate. I'm going to demonstrate on this material. Grab your glue bottle. Put a little bit of glue on there. You don't need a ton of glue, but you need to, oh, that's plenty. It's probably too much. Put some on there. Oh yeah, it's way too much. I'm going to wipe some of it off with my finger. I want a nice, smooth bed of glue on there. I don't want too much glue. I don't want too little glue. Got some on my finger. I'm just going to drag it over the corner of the piece of wood and get all that glue on there. Okay? So my finger's pretty clean. Don't freak out about it. Just rub it a little bit and it'll dry up kind of like rubber cement, and then it'll just fall off your finger. Okay? Now, you're going to hold this. Usually I would tell you in non-COVID times, I would tell you to get a friend to help you hold this up here. But now that we're in COVID, we're doing this by ourselves. So I'm going to put a screw in there. I'm just going to start them by my finger. You could use the drill to get them started a little bit. But I already got my glue on here. So now I'm going to use the table as my guide. So I've got all my pieces supported by the table. Notice I'm holding one finger here to line up this side and my thumb on top to line up the other side. Okay? I'm going to get my drill over here. I'm going to line that up. I'm going to very slowly put that screw in there. And you'll notice as it starts pushing the gap apart right there. At that point, I would stop and get the other screw started. Make sure that this corner is nice and square and tight. And note, I'm grabbing the board and pushing against the drill really hard so that the drill goes in. Okay, now I've got both screws started, but notice I've got this gap here. I'm going to take this screw and I'm going to back it out. See how the gap went away? I'm not going to pull the screw all the way out. I'm just going to pull it out until the gap disappears. I'm going to start putting the screw back in. Okay, notice that the gap's there, but now there's a gap up here. So now I'm going to back this screw out. Notice how that gap kind of disappeared. And then I'm going to put the screw all the way in. Notice I'm pushing really hard. I'm going really slow. And I'm going to pull the screw down so it's just flush. I don't want it too far in there. Notice I was going really slow when I got there. Okay, I probably made that look really easy because I've driven about 11 billion screws in my life. So there we've got one on there. So now we're gonna do the next one. Again, we're gonna get a little bit of glue. Not too much glue, just enough. Spread it around with our finger and get a nice smooth layer of glue on there. You want the whole joint to have glue on it. And again, I'm just dragging my finger over the edge of the board to get all the glue off my finger. There might be a little bit on your finger, rub it, wipe it on the table, whatever. So now I'm gonna get a couple more screws, start them in the holes. I'll hold this up here. It's a little harder because I'm right-handed, left-handed. I'm left-handed. Right-handed? I'm right-handed. So I'm using my left hand to hold this all together. And I'm gonna very carefully line it up and start the screw. Okay. Notice I didn't put that all the way in. It's not quite lined up properly. Start the second screw. That felt like a mess. Now I got them kind of started. I'm kind of manhandling it a little bit to keep it lined up. And then I'm pulling the gap down a little bit. See how the glue squished out of there? Oh, that's perfect. Tighten this one up just a little bit more. Notice I didn't bury it in there. Then I'm gonna wipe the extra glue off. That kind of made a mess. Oh well. And again, if the screw is sticking out just a little bit, just this is a trick. Some people want to put the drill in there and pull the trigger and then they wind up with a mess. Just put the drill in there and just twist it like you would a screwdriver. Just turn it that extra quarter of a turn to get that screw so it's just barely shy of the surface, not sticking out and not buried in there. So now we've got two boards on there. Now we start getting super tricky because we're going to do two joints at a time. Notice I put too much glue on there. You'll see why here in a second. I'll grab it up with my finger, transfer it over there. Smear this around, take all the extra glue, put it over there for a minute, clean this up so it's all on there, not dripping down the side. Come over here, take this puddle I left, smear it around. Looks pretty good. Okay, again, get all the glue back on there. Spin it around whichever way, whatever makes you happiest. I'm gonna go ahead and put all four of my screws in the holes. And I'm just gonna ignore that side over there because in theory, if I've lined this up correctly, that side will be lined up properly. Line this up nice and neat. Hold it as tight together as I can. Get that screw started so it's partially into this board but not tight at all. And I'm going to keep manhandling it. Oh, that was beautiful. Wipe the extra glue off. Pull that screw down until it's just tight, just flush, just shy. Wipe the extra glue off. We'll have paper towels too for your wipe stuff off. And notice that everything didn't come out quite perfect because, you know, boards aren't perfectly straight and square. So you're gonna probably wind up with something that's not quite lined up over here on this last corner. And that's where we use brute force. You just put a little pressure on it and push it around where you need it to be. Make it nice and tight. Look at that. Beautiful joint. Okay. Okay, there you go. We've made the base for our bench. Look at that. And now the last step is to take this, pick whichever side you think is the prettiest. I don't know that it matters. And we're gonna put it on there. Now, this is where it gets to be a little challenging because it wants to be lined up. And there's not a drawing, there's not a measurement on the drawing about telling you where to do that. So here's how you're gonna do it. Before you put any glue on here, do not put the glue on yet. You're gonna put that on there, you're just gonna kind of eyeball it where you think it's about the right, about centered. You take tape measure and you're gonna stick it under there just until it hits the leg, and you're gonna read the measurement. In this case, I'm reading 1 7/16 of an inch. And then without moving it, I'm gonna go over to the other end and I'm gonna measure, oh, we're like 1 3/8 inch. So I'm gonna bump it this way just a little bit. So now we're just over 1 3/8 inch. And then if I measure here, oh look, we're right at 1 3/8 inch. And I'm gonna keep doing that back and forth until I have exactly the same measurement on both ends, okay? And then I'm gonna move this. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my pencil. I'm just gonna make a couple of marks, however many you want. It could be, you can put 1, 2, or 50, I don't care. But now I've got some marks to line up, so when I take it off, whoa, not lined up anymore. But if I bring it back, line the pencil marks up, look, it's lined up exactly where my measurements were. Okay? So now that you've got a reference mark, you know where it's gonna line up. Take the lid off, set it to the side, grab your glue bottle, and start in. Again, we don't want a ton of glue here. The more, if you use too much glue, it's just wasting it. That looks like an awful lot of glue. So again, we spilled some on the side, we're gonna scrape that up. We're gonna start running our finger down through there. Oh yeah, look at that, all that glue. And we're gonna start smearing it around. We want a nice, smooth bed of glue. All the way around. That's a lot of glue over here. We're gonna scoop some of that up with our finger, put it back over here. I'm just gonna keep working it around. Getting it all smoothed out. Oh, and our glue. What are we gonna do now? Oh no. Grab the glue bottle. Get a little bit of glue going. Phew. Oh man, look at that mess. Man, that was a mess. Don't do that. Okay, now we got 2 fingers covered in glue. Oh no, there goes my phone. Something important's happening, I guess. Okay, here we go. Got our glue all down. I kind of made a mess of my fingers. I'm just gonna wipe that off on the bottom edge of the table. Smear it around so that it's not glue to get on everybody else or all over the drill. Again, if I just rub that, it'll ball right up and fall right off. Okay, now I'm gonna turn this way so I can see what I'm doing. You guys already understand the principle of the marks. And I'm gonna put it this way. If I put it that way and set it down, I'm gonna smear it all over with. I'm gonna get my marks as close together as I can. And then I'm just gonna plop it down in that glue so I don't slide it around once it's in the glue. And then I'm gonna grab a couple of screws, put them in the holes. I'm just gonna start right here, line my pencil marks up really good. Pull that down nice and snug. Then I'm gonna go over to the other side. I'm feeling on all the sides just to get it lined up nice and pretty. I'm gonna put the second screw in. I'm just gonna pull it down until it's just barely shy of the surface. And then I'm done. I can just go crazy. I can just put screws in as fast as I can go, within reason. When you're putting these in, you might want to angle them just a little bit because the leg is at an angle. In theory, if you've built the bench right, the screw will go into the leg without coming out one side or the other. But I have had students in here where they get to putting the screw in, at an angle, and they put it in, you know, this leg is at this angle, and they put the screw in at this angle, and then the screw's sticking out inside there. We don't want that. So if you put the screw in at just a little bit of an angle, It will follow the pilot hole to a certain extent, but you can change its trajectory just by forcing it. There, we're all nice and shy just a little bit. Got 2 more screws to go. Not quite there. Give it a little tweak. Put the last screw in. There we go, got all the screws in. Got some glue stripping out on the side here. You can do the Curtis Mortimer trick of just wiping it off, scraping it on the bottom of the table. Run your finger down there. That'll clean that up. You'd be surprised at how much of this glue will disappear when it dries. It kind of shrinks when it dries. And so don't worry about it too much, but if it's all over the place, you want to wipe it off. If you're really concerned about it, go get yourself a wet paper towel and wipe it down before it dries. I'm not making high-end furniture here, so I'm not too worried about it. Wiping all the extra off. Okay, now you've finished. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna get out of here. You're gonna clear the area so that the next person coming behind you can work on their bench. Because we won't have we need to have as few people in here as possible. And the sooner you can finish this up and get on out of the space, the fewer people we have so we can meet the COVID mandates. But once you've got to this stage, you're done, you're free to go. What you need to do after you've gone is you need to take your bench, you need to write your name on it. And then you need to take a selfie of it with yourself. Well, that was my shutter sound. And then you need to upload that to the Little Brown Bench assignment in Canvas. I hope that made some sense, and I will see you all on Tuesday. Have a good day.